Hey, how's it going? So, I meant to do this yesterday, Sunday, so just pretend it's Sunday. um, I had like a few interesting, I guess, epiphanies yesterday. So, I was watching, and this is not like a review or anything, it's just I'm mentioning it in passing. I was watching Mrs. Davis, which is can you see those signs? I hope so. Anyway, so oops, I was watching Mrs. Davis, which is a sci-fi sort of comedy series that's on Peacock, and it's basically about the adventures of a Christian nun, maybe Catholic-ish, and it's interesting the life that they've given this woman because it involves Templars, Knights Templars from the Crusades, which a whole giant chunk of the world does not still, after hundreds of years, think was a great thing. And I have to agree, because of all the senseless killing. I guess it made sense at the time, but these days just seems outlandish and crazy. So, and some of the sort of epiphanies were like refreshers. Okay, so here's the deal. A few months ago, after like many years of being professionally single, had this thought like, geez, I might as well be a nun. Because there are occasional occurrences, but nothing has ever been lasting, and it just kind of bothered me for a long time because it just seemed abnormal, like we all have our issues with getting along with people, but generally I don't have those. It's the things that have happened. I'm not going to say I have no fault in it, but like I didn't do the cheating that was ever happening ever. So to me, that's kind of a big deal because to me, that's always what kind of made things fall apart. And I am I guess you could say, Catholic expat. And God, it is so like worked into my being. Like I can't not think like a Catholic, even though I, at a very young age, I realized there were inconsistencies to it, and then like to what they're telling you with oh my gosh, 6 day a week Catholic school. When you go to Catholic school, you go to church like every day during the week that you're at school, and then also Sundays. And so there was Sunday school and church, and I went from like kindergarten to third grade. But that was enough. And then just growing up, like my whole family, like me, was Catholic. But anyway, you have these things that stay with you. So there's certain, even though, like I totally curse, I don't do it on here, of course, because I don't want to get in trouble. But yeah, I curse a lot, and sometimes the GD gets in there, and that was when, like, don't take the Lord's name in vain, don't take the Lord's name in vain. And in the show, the nun curses, there's like a whole sort of religious, not religious overtone to the whole show. And I'm sorry, I'm just thinking about getting all caught up in the action and stuff, but there is sort of an AI situation, I guess you could say, that is doing the thing that here and now some people, because the people are a lot afraid of a lot of things that AI could potentially do, or that they think it could potentially do. And this one is not, it doesn't really have to do things to systems or society, or make like the vacuum cleaner want to kill you all of a sudden when you plug it in. This thing, much in the same way religion can do, sort of brainwashes you. And it's very manipulative. And so I just was seeing all these parallels, and sometimes I and the nun in the show get off track, with our thinking. Her behavior was nothing like mine. Trust me, because it's kind of crazy. She's violent, or has been violent, and things happen around her because of what she's doing. Not directly like her walking up to somebody and doing an action, but just sort of the course of action that she's taking, and everyone that she's bringing along with her, and who she also gets sucked into with things with. It's not finished, but I'm waiting. I think I'm on the second season, so I'm waiting for the next episode, which is why I'm not doing a review on it. But I just I saw a lot of parallels, and she I don't know if people all know this, but in Catholicism, the nuns are basically brides of Christ. That's why they stay celibate and unmarried and don't date and all of these things. So in the show, you get to see the nun's relationship with Jesus, and it's more expanded than one might think from the outside if you don't really think about it too hard, because obviously to me there's going to be a mental component to it. Like nuns meditate. All sort of clergy folk, I think, have prayer and meditation time, and I'm not one. So I'm just assuming that they are contemplating Bible stuff and Christ, and almost kind of the same thing I do here, is just sort of like using that information or the thought process to function in life, to just ways to help get through things and what have you. And so they enter into a contract, or a covenant. Covenant is a word frequently used in church circles. And since I'm much older now and have gotten to study sort of religion and Catholicism, of course, because can't get away from it, and how, like, what that's done to me helps me sort of view life. Like, it's been my, I guess, lens for a long time. And then I also like to use my little tarot cards. Why am I calling them little? They're, cards, whatever. But I just got a new set, and it had a booklet, but I had to have it printed from a JPEG, and so I don't know how big this booklet was, but I now have to go take it to like the local Kinko's type place and get it bound, because I have all these pages of paper with everything like all in the corner, and it's kind of a big fat wad. But anyway, so I'm familiarizing myself with this particular deck. And seeing all that paper was kind of intimidating, but I've just been doing what I normally do, which is familiarize myself with them, the pictures and that. And so I pulled a card, and it was honestly before I got to the part of my thinking where I've just been talking about, and I pulled this card, and it just cracked me up because it's the Covenant card, and it's got the scroll and the quill with it says contract at the top, and then the middle is blank because it's flexible. You can like do it and make alterations or maybe change it at some point. And then it says Covenant at the bottom, sacred contract. And I thought, that's funny that card came out, but boy, it just totally understood what I was thinking about, talking about. So there was a little bit more. Oh, yes. And this happens a lot. So I'm on YouTube looking around at stuff, and I had been looking at Creole culture and history videos, and the day that this happened, I was just thinking about it, and then I turned on my phone and started scrolling, and then there popped up this video about Creole people and stuff, and then I watched it, and it had so many connections to me. And it's tough because basically everybody that I could go to as a relative on the side of the family who would have the information that I am curious about and don't have answers to, they're all passed away. Like, basically, the older people, I think before I was like 11, 10, 9, everybody was gone. Grandmothers, aunts and uncles, just, no one to ask the questions of. My mom, I would ask her stuff, but for some reason she was not willing to talk about much of anything. And that made it very frustrating for a curious cat like myself. So anyway, many years later, I'm back to what I started talking about, like scrolling up to this Creole channel on YouTube, and it was just like how funny the way that happens. I'm thinking about it, I want to know more, and whoop, I'm sure I must have said something out loud for, what do I have on this thing, Pixel, to pick up and report back to, AI Central. Hey, she's into Creole stuff, let's show her a bunch. But, also just a funny little coincidence or a synchronicity. And so, yesterday, I started thinking about it again, and then boom, up pops a Creole video. But what I had been thinking was about the sort of permeation of Catholicism, like where my family that I'm curious about, the Creoles, are from, is New Orleans. And in New Orleans and Texas, and I guess this was like a Spanish or French thing. The explorers in the New World brought this stuff with them. And a lot of the places in Louisiana, I guess instead of like counties or townships or wards, which is something they have in the South, I don't know if they're elsewhere, but as far as I know, wards are in the South. But I'm thinking it's like a county or a neighborhood or an area. So they're called parishes. And I don't know if you know this, if you're Catholic or not, or know about that, but churches are called a parish. And I think what it referred to was the church being sort of this self-contained place which has a church and maybe a school and like housing for clergy, male and female, whatever. It depends on the size of and function of the place, but they would have their own livestock and make their own food and wine or whatever stuff that maybe that monasteries do in like Europe. Some make cheese, some make wine. Well, if they make one or two of those things. They make probably everything that they're eating and drinking for the most part. Anyway, so like in my mind, a parish is like a little village, kind of a Catholic little village. But that's not like a widespread place name, anymore. I don't think. So that's what I was thinking about, and sort of the show was just all kind of like mooshing together. That's mooshing. I'm just like always kind of searching for the answer to something all the time. And I don't always get the answers, or I do get them and I don't understand them. But one thing I did have concern about for myself was like the cursing and that, but then on a whole other sidetrack here, then I got into this sort of metaphysical business that I'm into now, and there's a lot of ET, not just content, but input, and I'm a believer. I'm not gonna like make a big discussion about it. I'm a believer, I have my reasons, and the thing about it is that they're not as Jesus on American Dad said, they're not God's side project. They're part of the whole deal. They're God's creatures. If you believe in this whole concept that I'm talking about, the same way every other creature around us humans on the earth planet right now are God's creations, or creations, or spirits, whatever you believe, or they just popped out of nowhere because nothing anywhere imagined them to be such. They just appeared, I guess, is the atheist take. It was like a little hard to understand. Like at this late stage in life, I'm understanding that pretty much everything they tell you in religious schools, as far as like not getting personal and their own stamp on it, just sort of staying with the writings and the scriptures and all that, is about symbols. It's a bunch of symbology, and until I got to understand symbology better, even though I got that it was a bunch of symbols, I just wasn't understanding the depth of the word and the business when it is concerned with the religion stuff. So I'm not going to be like going to a church probably, because I've never felt like I had to sit in the building with other people to pray, like to make it real or valid. Not that I have anything against with the other people, but side note, solo. I was a only child and professional single person, so I'm on my own a lot. And that's okay. It's fine, because I did go to a lot of churches and spend time, and I didn't want to mix up all of that stuff with what I was thinking and feeling and believing anymore, because there's a lot of obligation and stuff that gets you in a church that is every other person's own thing, but that's not the route I have chosen to go. Anyway, oh shoot, now I lost. Where the heck was I? Well, the ETs and their connection with spirit and I guess religion, not the doctrine necessarily, but like just they're a part of it the same way, like I was saying, as anything else would be, the ETs. So they also act, once you know what's going on with them, there's not, I guess, unfriendly ones here anymore, so I'm not gonna, or right now, or they're not very powerful, whatever it is. I don't really want to talk about that. I want to talk about the ones that want to help. So, and that is what they want to do, and they are not angels, but I would say that they at least act in concert with the angelic realm, along with the, well, I didn't specify any species because I'm thinking about it in my head, but I'm not going to specify a species. There are several, well, there are a lot that are involved with us in a lot of ways, but they're a part of it. You know, they're not separate from us being a creation of spirit. And they know what's going on more than we earthlings do, as far as it goes, because we have certain limitations as humans, and we put them upon ourselves for very convoluted reasons I'm not going to go into right here and now. I've talked about it before. But they've been very instructive to me and taught me a lot, and they've also, ETs, have had a lot to do with indigenous people here, and it's probably out more the relationship between them and the teachings that they got from ETs many, I guess hundreds, maybe thousands of years ago, that they still hold on to today, like the elders, and I guess they're shamanic people, they're medicine people, which is something that I've always been drawn to. And so I have, I guess, a smidge, I guess you'd call it, of indigenous background myself. Choctaw from the Louisiana area, like that's where it originates for me, but there's Choctaws in Oklahoma and the surrounding area of Mississippi, and I guess this is the result of the Trail of Tears situation, or they were just a large enough population that they were spread out. But I don't know much about it. I didn't learn any of the traditions, and from where I am, very much removed from that area, all of the native people here have straight black hair, and, you know, will have the braids, but some have short hair, but I don't look like them. So I feel like if I bring it up, my smidge, it's like laughable. They don't say it. They might get a look on their face, or they might be very stoic, because a lot of them have that ability to not emote. It's like, what is going on with you? But the not emoting is saying something too. What I'm saying is, I feel like that is not taken seriously. It's like a joke, I guess, or, you know, like, you don't look right, you don't have enough, so you're not valid. And I don't know how it is for other people, but when you're black, like the little tiniest whatever amount it is, you're black, and that's it. Although that's opening up culturally, like people are understanding that there's more than one thing going on. It's more than what you look like outwardly. But in Louisiana, the Choctaw look more like me, so I've been also, that's been an avenue that I've been trying to explore. It's just that the native culture, the indigenous culture, although a lot of them were Catholicized in the Louisiana area, and given religion wherever they were taken from their native places. Long story, not going into that. You can figure that's, you can go look that up yourself if you're interested. But I don't know, that was just all on my mind, and it was all like a swirl, you know. Or maybe you don't know. But it was like just like the dryer of thoughts, I call it, with the thoughts just rolling around like a dryer full of, what do you call those things, like bounce sheets or whatever, dryer sheets. But it was all, for me, kind of connected. Dang it. I moved one thing and my whole setup toppled. Just a second. And none of it is like an actual camera stand or whatever you call them things. Please don't fall. Please clap. Okay. I'm going to finish up here. So the last thing I wrote was recurring theme. Okay, so in the show, Mrs. Davis, the recurring theme was know what you're signing up for. And that brought me back to this thing that I was saying in the beginning of being like the professional single person. And I don't know if I actually got it out, but I did start to say it. And it was that I've been watching these teachings, these metaphysical sort of lessons and things, and something that I've seen a lot, and I know it doesn't only apply to me, I'm not the only person that has this experience, but that you are kept separate for a reason. And to sum it up, you know, it's to focus inward and get to know yourself and heal things as much as you can. And thank goodness for these teachings, because I had a very long period of just sort of really separation because of my location from like familiar people and places. And so sort of local nearby help and comfort in other people that you are familiar with, that has been removed for a very long time. And so if you live somewhere where you didn't grow up, then you don't know everybody. You know, you didn't go to school with everybody. You don't have that experience. And I didn't even work here. Like, I moved here just after I couldn't really work anymore. And so I've just been hanging around just like an odd nut in the bowl, because no one really knows me. Like, I've been here for over 20 years now, so people are used to seeing me at least, but still I don't really know anybody here. And before I understood the spiritual business very well, I didn't understand like why I chose to be here. You know, I chose to move far away from everyone I knew for reasons, and I chose to move to the area that I'm in for reasons. But subconsciously, it was part of sort of this predetermined business I've talked about before, and that I basically signed up for this. As unhappy as I may feel sometimes, I can alleviate that a little bit by remembering that I signed up for this. So in the show, it refers to basically the nun's covenant with her marriage to Jesus. You know, the nun marriage business. Do not, okay. And like I said, I'm not doing a review on that, so I don't really want to say too much, because I plan to maybe at a later date. The great thing is, when you see the Jesus, if you have like some really deeply set preconceived notions, it may upset you, but it shouldn't if you read what Jesus used to talk about. Okay, there was more, but I'm done talking. I've gone on long enough, so thank you and good night.